personally, it was written in this period of like realizing I've stepped outside, accepted what I've left behind, opened up my doors to what's in front of me. So it's like a lot of letting go, but also a lot of honoring the different persons that you were in the past.
In this episode, we sit down with Muri to talk about her debut EP, On Zem, and how living in Paris shaped her creative process. From stepping out of her comfort zone to embracing fresh influences, Muri opens up about the journey behind the music. Tune in as Muri reflects on growth, letting go, and creating music that connects. Muri, thank you for being on the show. I know you traveled a long way, but traveling is nothing foreign to you. It's like your life, you do that all the time. So let's start there. You just flew in from Paris, right?
Yeah, jet-lagged.
What was it? What was it like living there and working on this EP over there?
I think living in Europe had opened a lot of doors for me. Also a lot of challenges, definitely as a new musician and as a foreigner in a new country. So I think it pushed me to really go out of my comfort zone. And yeah, the good thing is once you're in Europe, you get a lot of new ideas, influences, and you move around a lot. So I think it's just adding to my, arsenal of tools or skills or ideas. So it's been interesting. It's been a journey.
Now, obviously, the influences there are different, but literally the musicians are different, right? So you had to work with French musicians. You talked about it off camera that you literally had to go to gigs to convince people to work on the EP with. Can you talk about that a bit?
Well, I think it's like starting from zero again, like being in a new country. It's like finding the right people to work with, finding musicians who you vibe with, and literally sometimes it was like going to a gig and watching an open jam and going like, oh, hey, you're pretty good. Why don't we try something out? So it almost felt like Tinder for musicians. But then, I think it was very interesting to see a different side of music in a different country. So until I finally met the people that I'd work with, and which led to this EP.
Let's take it from there. No? So you finally found the right musicians. You started working on the project. What was it like? Obviously, there's a language barrier and there's a different culture, but what was it like working with those musicians to put this EP together?
Well, language-wise, the people I worked with there had experience living abroad, so they also could speak in English. So we would do a mix of French, English, depending on who would be talking. I think what was interesting was just a different style. I think, and in general, not just in music, but from a West and East culture, there's a lot more debate, a lot more open discussions, and it's not offensive. Whereas here, you have to speak with a little bit of consideration with people. Yeah, so I think that makes it a bit it was just an interesting view of communicating there. And I think the other thing I really enjoyed was also being in the studio. There was a lot of cool equipment and collaborating in person, because I guess my previous music was a bit done remotely, and this time I really want to try an organic way of doing things. So writing in the studio, writing on the spot, it was pretty fun.
Did you record analog?
It was mostly analog. Oh. There was a lot of, I'm not a techie person, but there were, the tape, whatever you call it. There's a lot of old stuff, and we recorded effects through analog systems and then put that into the mix.
There's no playing around when it's analog, so you had to be on point when you guys are playing, right?
That too. I think it was a bit you had the comforts of retaking and taking again, but no, it was just it just added to the different elements we could add into the songs.
Okay, so I've been avoiding saying this since the start of the interview, but I have to say it now. So let's talk about On Zem.
What? Yes.
Okay, so what are the themes of this EP, and what was going on during that time that made you write about those things?
I think On Zem personally, it was written in this period of realizing I've stepped outside, accepted what I've left behind, opened up my doors to what's in front of me. So it's a lot of letting go, but also a lot of honoring the different persons that you were in the past. And I think anybody who's going through transitions will realize they've had to let go of something or someone or some version of themselves. And it's both the ups and downs of that, both doubt and hope and frustration and joy. So I think it's a mix of different emotions leading to your journey as a person.
Wow, okay. What was What was the songwriting process like then? I mean, did you come in with the lyric? I mean, you mentioned that you'd write some lyrics on the spot, or you'd make some of the parts on the spot. But what was it like? Would you come in with a fully formed song sometimes and work with Sasha? Am I right? What was it like?
I think maybe half of it was a bit more of ready-made songs that I sort of had a very clear idea where I wanted to take it. And then the other half was doing it on the spot and just having a concept or maybe a few words, a few paragraphs, a few melodies, and then letting the music play out as we made it together. So yeah, definitely like, it's like having I felt like it was nice to have sort of like a bandmate in that sense. And Sasha's really helpful to just, give new ideas as well and make instruments come to life that I'm not capable of playing. So that was really conducive for songwriting.
Is there a song on the EP, or is there a moment on the EP that everything just came together and I was like, yep, this is it. No retakes, we're good. Or you know what I mean? Like, was there a moment like that throughout, or a few moments like that?
I wish there were more. I think there were a few, but I mean, me as a person, I'm just very like, okay, let's do better, do better, do better. So
Okay.
I think the lesson in this EP was more like learning to change with your music and let go and embrace something different. I did feel some of those moments when there were words that came out that I was like, okay, this is unique, or Sasha would tell me, okay, that's a good melody, let's work with that. So a lot of it was also spontaneous and realizing, hey, one take is actually quite good. So we had some of that as well.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit. Why were you in Paris in the first place? What were you doing over there?
What was it? I think ever since I was young, I always wanted to live abroad and just get experience and try different worlds. I lived in Italy for a year before college. So it wasn't my first time living abroad, but as a working adult, that was a new time to do it. I first went for my master's, and then the pandemic hit. I finished my master's during the pandemic. And from there, I just wanted to live there and experience living there. So yeah, I've stayed there. It's now been 4 years, I think.
Okay, and then you wanted to go back to making the music. And, you talked about letting go. You talked about, the storytelling in the EPs. A lot of that, it's very introspective. But there's also, you use multiple languages. Can you talk about that a bit and how that came into play for the EP?
Being based abroad now, I've met so many different people, including Filipinos who identify as multiple identities. So French Filipino, British Filipino, and I realized I was also becoming a bit more a global Filipino. And I used to not be a fan of like throwing in languages where I'm not 100% confident in. But I realized like as a Filipino with these mixed identities, you are just someone that speaks 3-4 languages. So it's not like you're forcing a song out of something you're not natural to doing. And me, I think I wanted to capture a bit of my life in France, but also a bit of me as a Filipino. So I threw in a little bit of Filipino, a little bit of French, just to like play around with it and just to capture who I feel I was at this time.
Okay, so, talking to you off camera, I can tell, you take this, obviously you take music seriously, but you were there for your master's. So you have this different approach to it, right? You're thinking PR, you're thinking marketing, you're thinking content.
Oh gosh.
Can you talk about that a bit and how, like, I don't mean to make myself sound old, no, but how this generation of musicians, you approach music like that, right? Can you speak on that a bit?
I think the truth is that there are ways and tools at your disposal that are there for the taking. I mean, I think organically, music is, in its pure form, it's music. But as an artist, you're also there to present your music and you want to connect with people. And there's many different ways to do that. And I think my experience, like being in the band with Ransom Collective, first gave me that preview. And then as a solo artist, gave me even a more in-depth preview of what you can do. So I think as an artist, like never lose sight of the music, but also there are these things that you can just do because it's there. And because if you want to connect more with people, reach more people, there's all these ways to do that. And I know there's some purists who are more like, okay, I don't want to be against anyone's opinion about it. But I think the reality is we live in a digital world. I live remote. I work remote. I live abroad. I connect with these ways. So it's just accepting that, I think, and working with it. Yeah, but never losing sight of the music, for sure.
With that, let's say you had a few minutes with a musician, an upstart, someone just starting his or her career, what type of advice would you give that person from that perspective and from a creative perspective?
Oof.
Sorry.
I think, well, I start with a more creative perspective
Mm-hmm.
because it starts with the music. And I think with music, it's just have fun with it. Like, yes, you want to do this and that, but like, it's your playground. Your music is an extension of yourself. And as much as, there can be people telling you what to do, what not to do. Maybe people don't like your music, whatever. Like, just have fun with it and just try to listen to who you are despite hearing everything around you. I think the second thing is just keep learning. Like, I guess if you think about music, it's a career. So it comes with a job that you need to keep growing. You need to keep getting better, whether that's in music or the things around it. I personally enjoy the creative side of working on, visuals and photos and stuff. So I think just embrace that that's part of it and make fun out of it. I mean, it's there and it'll just help elevate your music more.
Perfect way to end the podcast. Muri, thank you. Congrats on the EP. At this point, the EP has already come out. So thank you.
Thanks for listening to me. Hope you liked it.
Yeah. So,
On Ziem.
before we go, anything you'd like to leave our listeners and viewers with?
I guess maybe thanks for listening to the music. For me, it was just sharing my world, which is a mix of Philippines and all over the place. And I hope that somehow it connected to you and your story and whatever you're going through.